We write unit tests to test our application and its functionality, but can we be sure that our unit test is correct? In this video, we are going to discuss how to test our unit tests. Then stay tuned. Hello everyone and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to talk about test coverage and mutation testing. Let's start with test coverage and its importance. Test coverage shows us how percentage of our code and our block of codes are covered by the unit test. And how can we do that? Easily. Let me go to the code. Here I have a really simple calculator. It is just doing add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And I have another class for comparing two objects, two user objects. And if I show you the user model, it has just first name, last name, and email. And in the test project, I have some unit tests for testing what will happen on sum, on subtract, on multiply, and divide methods. And we have another test for checking divide by zero throw exception. For the object comparer, we are just passing some values to this method to be sure that it is working correctly. Let's run it in my text explorer. As you can see here, all tests are passed, but how can I be sure that my unit test coverage is high enough? For doing that, you need to right-click on your test and click on Analyze Code Coverage, or go to the test menu and run Analyze Code Coverage for all tests. You will see it is building the project again, running the test, and showing you the result. It says that 98% of my lines are covered and 99% of my blocks are covered. Let's open it. Let's open the library. They are all covered. And what is important for us here is just our library, because it is going to show us the unit test coverage for our test framework, which is not really important for us. This one is really nice and it has some fantastic features. For example, if I go to one of my codes and just click on this button for show code coverage coloring, you will see that it is showing us the coloring for the coverage. I can just check show the lines, and if it is covered, the line here is light blue. But how can we change it? If you want to change this color, it is really easy. You just need to go to Tools, Options, and here under Environment, Font and Colors, we need to find the coverage. Coverage not touched, I'm going to change it to red. Coverage partially touched, I'm going to change it to yellow. And for fully covered, I'm going to change it to green. And let's see. Okay, now it is better. I can see that my code has 100% unit test coverage. It is really nice, especially if you are working in a company. We have some static analytic tools like SonarQube, and unit test coverage is a good indicator that shows that is your code is covered by unit test or not. But can we trust it? I guess not. As I explained it in the test pyramid, unit test is a red light KPI, which means that if I have 100% unit test coverage, I cannot be sure that we are covered everything. If not, how can we be a bit more confident about our unit test? Here it comes a library which is called Stryker. Stryker is a mutation testing. Mutation testing means that it is going to mutate some parts of your code to see if by changing the code your test will failing or not. Because if we change a part of the code and your test is still passing, it means that your test or the data that you provide for the test is not correct and we need to change it. Let's click on the mutation for C# and you can see that in the get started it tells you that you need to install Stryker, and after that it explains that it has so many mutations. For example, inside your code it is going to change plus to minus, minus to plus, or if I scroll down it is going to change plus equal to minus equal, and it is going to change so many things. Each of these changes is called mutation, and all mutations should be killed. Let's switch to Visual Studio. First, I need to install the Stryker. I need to go to the PowerShell console and try to write dotnet.tool install -g, which means it's going to install it globally. .NET Stryker. I have it already installed. What can I do now? I can just run it by running .NET Stryker. As you can see, it is trying to run the test. First, it is going to build the project, then start the mutation, and after that, show you the result. And it is not a really fast process. It will take time. We have less than 10 unit tests here, and it is going to take time for about 30 seconds to 1 minute. It is the reason that I don't suggest to have a Stryker as a part of your deployment in your pipeline. You need to have another pipeline just to run a Stryker and check the mutation testing and run it whenever you want. As you can see, here we have one report. I can go back to my Chrome and check the result. I have calculator, the mutation rate is, or mutation score is 50%. I have object comparer, mutation score is 20%. Can you remember? We had 100% unit test coverage, but our test or test data is 50% reliable for calculator and 20% reliable for object comparer. It is going to list all the files that I have in my project. I don't have any unit test for this user, which is in my model folder. Let's jump into the file. I can see the killed mutation, ignored mutation, and survived. But what we need to look after is the survived one. Here is the first survive. I'm going to click on this button. And you can see that it mutated the multiply to divide, and the arithmetic mutation survived. Let's check the code and see how can we kill this mutation. Here for multiplying, we are multiplying 1 and 1, and the result is 1, and it is correct. Our test data is not valid because if we divide 1 by 1, the result is 1 again. Let's do it, for example, 2 by 2, and the result should be 4. Let's go back to the result and see here. I'm going to explain this one later. It says you are dividing number 1 by number 2, but if we multiplying number 1 to number 2, the result will be the same. Let me go back to my code and check it. Yes, we are dividing 5 by 1 and the result is 5, and the multiplying is exactly the same. Let's change it to maybe 10 by 2, and the result will be 5, and run it again. The result is ready. I'm going to copy it again and go back to browser and paste it, and see, now we have 83% score, and the only thing that remains is that it says if it tries to remove this line, the result will be the same, and it is correct, because if we don't have this check here, eventually here in line 27, the compiler is going to throw divide by 0 exception. But I really like to have this check here, but not returning divide by 0 exception, maybe have one custom exception. It is the reason that I never mentioned that you need to have 100% mutation score. Sometimes for some examples like this one, or for equivalent mutation, you don't need to change your code. You just need to read it and be sure that it is not something unwanted. Let me go back to the report and check what is wrong with my object comparer. In the object comparer, I can see that there are 8 conditions which are not covered. But in our unit test coverage, it said that our code is covered 100%. But here it says 8 not covered. Why? The reason is that in the unit test coverage, it is checking if it is reaching this line for the if or not. But here in the mutation testing, it is checking all the conditions by changing them. And how it is happening? Here it says that not covered by any test. Let me go back to code and go back to my object comparer and look at it. Okay, we have this object, we are passing this object and the other object and checking it. We are checking the first name. We are checking the first name with Foad Alavi, and here it is net. And let me go back to the code as well. I am looking at first name of object 1 and object 2 and compare them. And if they are correct, I am going to check the second one because it is %% here. If the last names are the same, it is going to third one, which means that if the first name is not correct, it is not going to check any of them. And if the first name are not the same, if we have and or if we have or here, the result will be the same. Let's go back to the object comparer again. As I said, we need to have the same name and have a different family. Let's try to uncomment this one because the first name is Foad as the first object, but the last name is Stark. Let's save it and go to the PowerShell. And now I'm going to run dotnet Stryker -o. dotnet Stryker -o is going to run the Stryker for me, and after that open the report in the browser. Okay, now I can see the result 100%. Nice, just by changing one line. And it is really nice to check the validity of your test. Sometimes, not every time after publishing your code, but it is really nice to check it because it is really time taking. The other thing that I really like about the Stryker is showing me the result like that. The result and report in the HTML view is more meaningful to me. Do we have any kind of report for the unit test coverage in a shape like that? Yes. You need to install a .NET report generator, and then you can have an HTML report for your unit test coverage. I have one PowerShell file here to run it. I'm going to run it for you, and then you will see how it works. And I will put this on the GitHub. You can get it from GitHub. Let me run the code. The code name is runtest ps1. Let's see. It is the report that I have for the unit test coverage. I can see the level, first level, second level, and show me the unit test coverage for everything. If I click on it, it will show me the lines which are covered in my code. And after that, when the Stryker is done with mutation, it is going to open the Stryker result in the browser as well for me. Nice. It is all I prepared for today's course. Please do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And please hit the bell. And if you have any question, just ask them in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video.